Committee. This is the meeting of June 19th. I'm Cam Gordon. I'm chair of the committee, and I'm joined by council members Andrew Johnson, Lisa Bender, and Elizabeth Glidden, quorum of the committee, so we can conduct our business. We do have two public hearings today, and we have several consent items and one discussion item. I'll go through the consent items first and see if there's anything any committee member wants to pull off to discuss, and then we'll go back to our public hearings. The first consent item, number 3 on the agenda, is accepting a grant from Clearway, Minnesota to create smoke-free generation and reduce tobacco's harms. The fourth item, second consent items, authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with the Line of Health System, doing business as the Phillips Eye Institute regarding indigent care and the 340B drug pricing program certification. Fifth item is confirming the mayoral appointment of Muzamil Ibrahim for a 2-year term on the Minneapolis Advisory Committee on People with Disabilities. The sixth item is approving our 2017 One Minneapolis Fund recommendations. There's 10 groups that will be funded. This is approving funding totaling $157,000 to the 10 nonprofit organizations. And we're also approving criteria for the remaining $25,000 in funds for the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department initiated projects. And the seventh item is to set a public hearing for July 24th, 2017 to consider the subject matter of an ordinance amending Title 13, Chapter 281 relating to licenses and business regulations, tobacco dealers, and tobacco sales. Does anyone wish to pull any of those items off for discussion? Seeing none, then I will move all of those consent items. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Those motions carry. And then we'll go back to item number 1 on the agenda. And this is our public hearing for the selling and sorting on streets ordinance amendments that are brought forward by Councilmember Johnson. And I believe we're going to have a brief presentation by Mr. Ryan Crick. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. We have a minor ordinance revision today to selling and sorting on streets. The minor amendment is to Title 10, Chapter 188, Section 188-110, selling and sorting on streets. This amendment would allow any duly licensed food establishment to sell certain products outside of their brick and mortar. They could sell whole fruits and vegetables, nuts in the shell, or prepackaged non-potentially hazardous foods. We really envision just one shelving unit or table outside of a grocery store or bakery to display that product. That is all that I have for you today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I don't see any questions. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks.
So we'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody here to speak on this issue? Anybody here to speak on this issue? Seeing that nobody has signed up and nobody is here, then I'll close the public hearing and I'll move to Councilmember Johnson. Maybe you want to speak to this and move it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to go ahead and move this item, and then I guess I can say just a quick word after that. All right. Well, I just want to thank our staff for their work on this, and I think this is another opportunity to help display fresh, healthy foods out there for consumers and hopefully entice them to stop and buy an apple and have it on the way home from wherever they're going, and hopefully our business owners will take advantage of this. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm hopeful to see this being utilized too in the city. We'll see what happens. I appreciate you bringing it forward. Any other comments? Not seeing any then. On the motion to approve this ordinance amendment, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And that motion carries. Thank you very much. That moves us to our second item. And this is on the Neighborhood and Community Engagement Commission appointments. Part of the ordinance for the commission requires a public hearing when it comes time to approve new appointments. There are 3, 4, 5 people coming forward for consideration today. Welcome.
Welcome, Chair Gordon, committee members. My name is Cheyenne Bodine, and I am the Administration and Internal Services Manager for the Neighborhood and Community Relations Department, and I'm before you seeking your approval for 1 mayoral and 2 city council appointments, and your confirmation of 1 mayoral and 1 city council reappointment to the Neighborhood and Community Engagement Commission. And today we are actually joined by one of the new appointments, the mayoral appointment, Mary Didu Swinton, and she is here to speak to the committee. Thank you.
Welcome, and thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Mary Didu Swinton. I moved to Minneapolis with my husband from the St. Louis area in November of 2015. I have 2 mostly grown children, and I'm originally from Houston, Texas. I've been what I call a full-time community volunteer for 2 decades now. I've been involved in various organizations throughout the cities where I've lived, which include Houston, Columbus, Ohio, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Plano, Texas, Allen, Texas, St. Louis, Missouri, Clayton, Missouri, and now Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've quickly grown to love my new city, and I was attracted to the NCEC because I've always felt that great ideas, innovation, and change come from neighborhood and community level groups who know intimately their members. I'm excited to have this chance to contribute to my new city by working to encourage neighborhood and community involvement. Thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you for your willingness to serve. Is there anybody else who'd like to come up and comment on the appointments? Seeing none then, I'll consider that me opening and closing the public hearing because we took those comments and there's nobody else here, so we can close that. I will just note that I was part of the selection process and got to look at all the applications and do some interviews, and I'm very impressed with the people who applied. Many of them are outstanding, and certainly with the 5 names that are coming forward. So I will move this item forward for approval. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion carries. And that moves us on to our last item on the agenda, which is our discussion item. And this is discussing an agreement with Xcel Energy to participate in the Renewable Connect program. And I believe that Brian is here to make a report on this. Mr. Milberg is getting set up.
Chair Gordon, committee members, I'm Brian Milberg. I'm the energy manager for the city, and I'm here today to talk about a new program from Xcel Energy, which will allow us to buy electricity generated from renewable wind and solar resources directly. Just a quick overview of where we are in the city. We typically use between 100 million and 101 million kilowatt hours a year of consumption, and it's basically divided into 3 almost equal areas. All of the buildings that we have, from the smallest shack up to the convention center, the water treatment facility and the entire distribution system, and then the street lights and signals. Out of this 100 million kilowatt hours a year, we currently can claim renewables less than 0.5%. We have a solar array at our Royalston facility, and then at the Hiawatha maintenance facility, 25 to 30% of the electricity we use is from the wind source program. So when you add these 2 together, it comes out to 414,000 kilowatt hours, or 0.4%. Now, we do have other arrays on other buildings for solar power. I've listed them here. However, these arrays, through the rebate program and the various incentives we receive from Xcel, the renewable energy credits actually accrue to Xcel Energy. So while I could state that we're certainly supporting renewable energy, and that energy does actually get used within our facilities, legally it actually goes towards Xcel's renewable portfolio standard. So I have to set that aside when I consider what we generate as renewable. And then, as you know, in a previous council action, we've gone out to purchase electricity that's been generated by the new solar community gardens. And again, those renewable energy credits are accruing to Xcel, although we are going to be receiving by the end of this year 7.5% of our electricity through that method. So Xcel Energy for many years has had a program called WindSource, which we are part of, as I stated. And there you pay a slight premium for your energy, and the renewable energy credits do accrue to the customer. And the energy does not go towards meeting Xcel's renewable portfolio standards. They've now come out with a new program that they're calling Renewable Connect, and it's a mix of new solar and wind resources. And it's a single lot of production of 178 million kilowatt hours. And there's a new tariff that's out. And basically, anyone in the Xcel territory can sign up for this program. No one can take more than 10%, which would be 17.8 million kilowatt hours. And that's what I'm proposing that we purchase for the city. The advantage of this program is that, as I said, the renewable energy credits accrue to the customer. So we could state this facility or this operation is powered by renewable energy. Now, there is a slight cost premium. The contract is a 10-year contract. It accelerates a little over 1.5% per year. And basically, you're paying this 3+ cents extra, but then each month you get deducted from that the fuel costs for the for the fossil fuels, which obviously you're not using. And that leaves a difference of about 0.5 cent right now. So basically, we'd be spending 0.5 cents extra. That number could rise over time based on what happens with fuel costs, and certainly the cost of the program does rise slightly each year. So we're requesting that the city submits a contract for the maximum that's allowed, which is 17.8 million kilowatt hours annually for a period of 10 years. The cost of this for the entire year, starting this first year, will be about $89,000 extra over the electricity cost. It's about a 6% increase. And then over time, as the price increases, depending on what happens with fuel costs, it could be as much as a 12% increase over the standard rate of electricity. However, that's conjecture at this time. That's where I calculated the $178,000 for that amount of electricity. Now, this electricity would be 17.7% of the city's usage each year. When you enter a program like this, you have to assign the electricity to a facility. And after speaking with the various departments, we've decided to have the vast majority of the energy go directly to the convention center. The convention center, with this and the general amount of electricity from Xcel that is renewable, they would be able to claim 96% of the electricity comes from renewable sources. This will cost them about $42,000 this year. They are very in favor of this because they routinely and increasingly get asked, tell us all about your sustainability programs when trying to land new business. So they view this as a great marketing, in addition to obviously lowering our greenhouse gases. The remainder would go to our water treatment plant. They use in excess of 20 million kilowatt hours a year, so the 3.8 works out to about 32% of their electricity. Now I want to show you a graph that just kind of shows where we are and where we would be. So if you look at the blue bottom part of the bar graph, this chart shows the entire amount of electricity we buy each year. The blue portion in the bottom would be the Renewable Connect, and it's, as I said, 17.7% of our electricity. That very slim red line is that 0.4% that we can claim as renewable. And then Xcel Energy supplies the rest. Now, Xcel in 2016 calculated that 25% of their electricity delivered was generated by non-fossil and non-nuclear methods. So that would mean solar, wind, hydro, biomass, and that accounted for 25% of their energy. So if you take the green and the purple bar together, that's all of the energy from Xcel, and 25% of that is renewable. When you add that together, we would reach 38.6% of our electricity coming from renewable sources if we move ahead with this contract. Are there any questions or anything I can answer?
I don't see any questions right now. I'm interested in getting, I have a staff direction here, which would ask you to seek to get up to an additional 50 million kilowatt hours per year from the Renewable Connect program. And so I'm wondering if you have any feedback on that, or?
Well, what Excel Energy has told us is that this particular allocation is set, and they, at this time, do not have plans for another additional amount, but they did state that if there was interest and if this totally fills up, then they definitely would look into a second amount. I have no idea how large that amount of energy will be, since I don't know their plans, but they certainly are open to trying to find more resources.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So my thought is that by expressing some interest and demand, that will also put some pressure on them to see if they can't provide more of that. Appreciate that. I don't see any other questions at this time. I think there's actually a couple motions that we're going to make related to this. So I think maybe we can present those and then approve the recommendation to go forward with this too. Or maybe we could just approve this first and then move on to the two staff directions. All right, so let's do that, because I don't think the staff directions, they can act separately or not. So first of all, I will move to authorize the new agreement with Excel to participate in Renewable Connect as proposed. Any discussion on that? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Say no. Any abstentions? That motion carries too. And then I'm going to pass out the staff direction so you can see this, and I'll read this one. And this is just directing staff to seek an additional 50 million kilowatt hours per year from the Renewable Connect program when sufficient renewable energy is made available by Excel Energy to purchase through this program. Any discussion on that? Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I think this might relate a little bit to the additional motion as well that I'm about to, or staff direction, I should say, that I'm about to discuss. But I think it's appropriate for us to indicate publicly our interest in additional allocation, and we'll have to then take it from there to see what happens with the program. So thank you.
Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. That motion carries. Now there's a second staff direction motion I'll pass out. And I'm going to, Councilmember Glidden, would you like to make this motion and speak to it?
Thanks. And folks might pass that all the way down to the clerk if you can. This is a staff direction regarding options for 100% renewable sources for cities' electricity usage. There is a nationwide effort happening right now to identify cities that are willing to commit to seeking 100% renewable sources for electricity uses. I will note that there's sometimes maybe a little different interpretation of city. Are we talking city as an enterprise or city as an entire population jurisdiction, which is, of course, a much bigger challenge. For cities in kind of this northern Midwest area, as I understand from our staff, there may be some additional challenges due to cold weather and kind of our use of natural gas and how that might affect our ability to get to 100% renewable. I know there are many council members and the mayor's office too who have an interest in this goal, so this is a staff direction that would take some steps to move us along to getting the kind of information set that would allow us to make a decision on the goal. And it's kind of a detailed staff direction. I want to thank Mark Ruff, as well as Luke Holenkamp and folks from their teams for helping to identify how to draft this in a way that we kind of get a good set of information back. My understanding is we also want this to go to the Ways and Means Committee, and Councilmember Quincy has also expressed a good interest both in the topic but also making sure we're talking about the financial implications of this. So this would be the direction this passes here. We'll also send it on to the Ways and Means Committee. I want to thank my partners from the Clean Energy Partnership. For those who don't know the weeds of the work plan of the Clean Energy Partnership, this is actually in the work plan of the Clean Energy Partnership to explore this as a goal. And Councilmember Gordon and Councilmember Reich are partners in that, and I know Councilmember Fry has also been very interested in this topic. So I just want to say thanks to all those who have been expressing their interest and what it might take to get us there. So I'll go ahead and move the staff direction.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that and the work that's gone into this. It's been bubbling along for a while, and I wasn't sure if it was coming up today or at a future meeting, so I'm really glad that we're considering it today. I really appreciate some of the specifics in here. I just want to make sure it's clear to us and everybody that this step is to look at the city enterprise and how we can get 100% of electricity usage from renewable sources. I think the next step after this, if we can prove that the city enterprise can do it, is, well, how can we expand this to other users throughout the city? We definitely are a very big user of electricity, and if we can get our needs met through renewable sources, I think that will be significant. I really appreciate the way that we lay it out here with our looking at larger solar arrays. I'm looking at solar gardens, looking at the renewable energy credits, which we just talked about. Or we didn't, we talked about Energy Connect, but we've talked about before, and also longer term options for stable sources of power, including purchasing power in the wholesale market or becoming the owner of our own renewable energy facility. So I think this is a great step in moving us in the right direction and showing that we can lead at the local level, even if it looks like maybe sometimes at the national or state level there isn't as much leadership as we need. So appreciate that. Anybody else want to make any comments on this? Seeing none, then I will move approval of the staff direction regarding options for 100% renewable sources for city's electrical usage. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no. All right, that motion carries. And then I think that concludes our meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we are adjourned. Good job. Sorry about that.